Thank you very much. I feel great joy, and it is my great honor to have this opportunity to take part in this third conference on religion and social processes in Southeastern Europe, which is the third conference in this great building. So the title of my presentation is Islamic Philosophy and Religious Pluralism, Critique of Destructive Tolerance. Today, when we talk about the benefits of tolerance coexistence between and among members of different religious traditions in the world, and in the context of the popular religious pluralism, we generally expect that the people of faith will strengthen this idea, because tolerance at the level of coexistence of different religious traditions is something that is necessarily positive and useful. But I'll be quite cautious there. I'll strike a fundamental distinction between two categories of tolerance. One form is positive, in my opinion, constructive, whereas the other type of tolerance, which is the tolerance we see in the modern world, I see as destructive with far-reaching consequences, adverse ramifications. Let me try to elaborate on this from the perspective of cognitive authoritativeness of the classical Islamic philosophy. The entire idea of religious pluralism and modern tolerance today is based on Kant and novel Kant and new Kant epistemological principles. When modern representatives of classical Islamic philosophy, and those would be the followers of a very popular school of transcendental philosophy, which is based in the 17th century, but even today it prevails as the classical school of Islamic philosophy. So when they talk about the need and necessity to critically revisit or review Kant's epistemological principles, one of the reasons for their position is also that this school of philosophy, which is brilliant in itself, produces destructive tolerance in the ways that I'm trying to explain here. So, Kant's epistemological school and his philosophical principles are brilliant. And I like to insist on that. But if a school of philosophy is brilliant, it does not necessarily mean that it cannot be subject to our critical reviewing and revisiting or evaluation. So, the key subject of my today's intervention, and some sort of a warning, is the fact that Kant and new Kant epistemological principles appear in their necessary logical results, are reflected in their necessary logical results, because they have necessary logical consequences in the sphere of religious life and life itself. John Hick, the famous John Hick, who died in 2012, the British philosopher, opens up the horizon where we can feel what Kant's epistemological principles lead to in terms of the consequences. Let me read out a number of sentences that John Hick wrote. He says, "Are we going to be able to accept the general distinction which Kant sees between the universe as a thing per se and the universe as a phenomenon? And then will we be able to use the very same relations to understand the ultimate truth? Hick sees it as God. So can we see it is an real analysis between God, of relations between God and human understanding of the truth. So we here talk about two different distinct categories. Kant sees something as a thing per se, and that something else is a phenomenon. And let me explain how I'll use this distinction in my intervention. And Hick and other philosophers of religion say that something is God, and some other things are our representation of God, our image of God. Let's remind ourselves that when we talk about the critical analysis of Kant's relativism, which my colleague Mohammed has mentioned today, let's recall that Kant insists on that a man, in his reason in advance, has certain predefined forms of observation, and that those categories and forms of observation are actually an obstacle due to which it is possible to understand the external reality. For example, this glass. In order for me to understand this external glass, this understanding is mixed in my ratio with predefined forms of behavior and understanding, and then I get a different understanding. So the glass is a thing per se, and please pay attention, it is out of reach. What, Professor, is beyond my reach, is within my reach, is the phenomenon of the glass, which got into being by mixing different forms and the truth. Hence, this is an obstacle which prevents me to understand it. So the truth is beyond our reach. It is not known. It cannot be known. And allow me to say, it is evicted into an unknown realm simply because we do not have epistemological instruments to be able to understand the truth without any obstacles. I mean, the objective truth as is. I'm going to read a Kant sentence from Prolegomena. This has been translated into our language a long time ago, I think in the 1950s, and I'll share my conclusions. Kant, the brilliant Kant. You see, I'd just like to ask you to understand the following. My today's topic of discussion is not Kant and Kant's epistemological principles, because we are limited with the methodological boundaries of our discussion. Today, I'm focusing on the logical consequences of such epistemological teaching in the philosophy of religion and definition of religious tolerance. Only that. So what and in what way can we, through philosophical and critical analysis, value and review relativism in Kant's philosophy? So that's not the topic of my topic. I talked about it, I wrote about it, but that's not the topic today. Kant says, please pay attention to this. This is very important. So what are things per se? We do not know anything about it. But we understand only the phenomenon. That is, an idea that the phenomenon produces. So this is a thing per se. I do not know whether it exists after all, you see. I know it exists as a phenomenon, as an image in my mind. But look at what John Hick says, based on these sentences I've just read in his book. John Hick says, this Hick sentence, in my opinion, is omni-warning. Why? Because John Hick thought that he would create a tolerance. The tolerance I call destructive tolerance. But bear with me, please. I beg your patience so that you understand the very cusp of my critique. Christ, Shiva, Allah, etc. are manifestations of God in a human mind, but also they are a product of the human thought in forms that reflect different historical and cultural contexts. From the human perspective, those beings, when we say Yahweh, Krishna, Shiva, Allah, God, etc., so those beings, those essences, are actually our images of the God, or our product, the fruit of epistemological engagement of the human mind. Whether these images actually exist in the actual world as things per se, I find the answer in Kant. We do not know anything about it, or we know nothing about it. Why is relativism in understanding wrong in its primary postulates from the perspective of cognitive authoritativeness of Islamic classical philosophy? I repeat, will not be the subject of my discussion, because this is not the topic of this conference. A month and a half ago, at the Youth Center in Belgrade, I gave a speech. It was a great round table, which lasted actually for 2 hours. The topic was Islam and Kant, Islamic philosophy in Kant. And I touched upon this topic there, addressed this need to review, Kant's philosophy. What I'm saying is that this philosophical principle, Kant's epistemological school, is not an adequate philosophical principle for constructive solution of 2 problems of religious pluralism. The first is theoretical, the second is sociological. I'll be brief here. The theoretical problem of religious pluralism is as follows. Is it possible that members of different religious traditions experience salvation? Or is salvation reserved only for one true religion and not for others? That's a theoretical question. A social question focuses on the possibility of joint life in peace between different members of different religious traditions. My opinion is that the modern tolerance and religious pluralism, in light of Kant's epistemological principles, are destructive in both cases. Both in terms of theory and practice. Why? Let's start from the theory, the theoretical issue. Question. It is possible that we say as follows. Let's say there are many paths that lead to the truth, and then members of different religious traditions are now on these different roads, all of them treading towards the truth. Hence, everyone will be subject to the universal salvation, because everyone speaks the truth. We need to respect each other. In a way, everyone has uncovered the truth. So it is possible to say, but the modern tolerance is not what this is about. In modern tolerance, based on Kant's epistemological principles, we say the following. We say, the truth is beyond reach. The truth is a thing per se. It has been evicted into another land, into nowhere land. So if it's beyond reach, then no religious person can actually reach the truth. No religion can uncover the truth. Everything that we are able to uncover in different religious traditions are simply our products, the products of our mind. All followers are in the same way far from the truth. So what is the conclusion? Actually, it's irrelevant to talk about whether every single person will be part of the salvation. Why? Because no one can reach the truth, and the truth is a precondition for salvation. In other words, followers, religious people in the modern world are forced to live one next to each other because they do not have the right to talk about the possibilities of their religious tradition to reach the truth. Let me give you a very vivid example to showcase what our modern world looks like. So it's like a classroom where there is a teacher who speaks and no one's asking anything. Everyone is still. And, in our case, things are even more dangerous. And the teacher then says, in my class, everyone understands everything. No one's asking anything. Everyone's calm and still. And then we go to the classroom to see why this is so. And then all of a sudden, there is a pupil trying to raise his hand, and others say, shush, do not do that. You do not have the right to ask. In the modern world, religious traditions are stripped from their epistemological right to speak about the truth. We say that their sealed philosophical or epistemological destiny is such that they cannot reach the truth, and if they cannot reach the truth, then they have to live one next to another, because none of them speaks the truth. None of them is able to uncover the truth. Is it really constructive tolerance based on which we are able to build the coexistence in today's modern world? Or is this, and this is my final conclusion, an empty, untruthful, insincere promise? When I don't have enough time, and I think that I don't have enough time, but I need to finish here, so I'll leave something for the discussion. So today, I'm not going to talk about epistemological principles of positive or constructive tolerance in philosophical Islam or Christian religious tradition. I've prepared this as well, but I'll leave this for discussion. I'll just say the following. If tolerance is based on such epistemological principles of classical Islamic philosophy, classical Christian theological thoughts, then this tolerance will be our divine obligation, our holy principle, and not just an empty formula, not just an empty form. Peace in which we live today is political peace. Peace that is a product of the political will. And after Nietzsche, we know that today it's quite clear that the political will is the primary source of values, rights, the truth, and objective realities. But let's not go there. So if the political will is the primary source of the truth, values, rights, etc., and then the political will say you need to live in peace, we'll be living in peace, but this peace will be based on destructive principles. It will not be viable in the long run, and I don't think that we need to give examples here of how destructive this form of tolerance is in the long run, because we do not believe in such tolerance. We are simply forced to implement it. And why? Because let me be brave here and say the following. In order to attain tolerance, we have accepted that in step 1, we sacrifice the soul of our religious tradition, which is the possibility to reach the truth. When we sacrifice the soul or the core of our epistemological traditions, are we going to reach the tolerance? Well, yes, but I'm not sure how viable it is going to be. And my final view and stance is as follows. These judgments will not be beneficial to religious traditions and followers, and this is my deepest conviction. Critical instruments of classical Islamic and Christian philosophical tradition will also help modern philosophers, contemporary philosophers, scientists and sociologists to recognize where it is possible to discover the fundamental key of manifold crises that we have been facing. These crises are not on the surface. Those crises are below the surface. They are in the philosophical network of analytical terms that condition the credibility of modern life, modern theories, and modern realities. At the level of political, everyday realities, we see external forms without knowing that the external forms are actually the instruments or a result of something that has been happening below the surface for decades when we were not able to see it. And now, once we see it, we cannot possibly participate in it constructively. And I repeat that here, that it's been quite an honor. I'd like to thank wholeheartedly the kind organizers, because with their professional organizational skills, and I'm looking at you down there, here, you allow everyone, all of us, and again, I thank you all, to think about primordial segments of critical review and a critique that actually delineates our religious, cultural and civilizational life. Thank you. It's been quite an honor.